Hello everyone, here we are again. As you can see, I got my circles stitched and I have not even tried to turn the blue snowball mic on. I think it's just been knocked over by the cats too much. Hi Kathy. So I came on this morning and I showed how to put the interfacing on the back. And I drew some circles and I've stitched around them and I used a different variegated thread. So this is the back and I'll turn it so the front is facing you. And you can see my stitched circles here and there. And you can tell I didn't add a bunch of them because our next step is going to be cutting these into the squares we need. Let me get rid of if I can get rid of that. Now I'm going to try really hard to stay in screen as much as I can. So I've got my whole piece now all of the components are stitched on, the stitched circles are on. They're the variegated ones you see. There's a couple little ones here and some more big ones. And if there was like a straggly bit of string hanging down, I just stitched right over it. And so some of the circles didn't come out perfectly circled, but that just proves that it's handmade. So you can see the blue ones like this are the ones we stamped on with a curler, if I remember right. And then the larger ones and then the little guys like this, those are all stitched on. And that's my back again. You can see the back of them. And you can tell from the back, I didn't add a ton of circles. Sorry, guys, I'm fighting a cold. So I added just enough of these to add interest. You don't have to add a ton because we still have many more steps to go. Now, to cut these out, I'm going to use a rotary cutter, and I did take the time to put a new blade in it. And I'm going to use an OmniGrid ruler, and this is a self-healing cutting mat underneath it. And what I'm going to do, because see, my ruler won't reach the whole way, I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to fold this in half, hot dog style. And just if you take your two edges and get it even in one spot and you hold it up, it'll form a U all the way down through. If you're off grain, like say I did like this, you can see it's not going to be perfect. But if you do it like so, then you can measure from your fold here, make this fold. You could even press this in half if you wanted to. I'm not going to bother with it. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to square up one of the ends, and I'm going to do this end. And what I do is I line the fold up with a line on my cutting mat. Not on my cutting mat, on my ruler. So I'm going to line this up at 11. And I'm just going to trim this off so that I don't have any fabric that doesn't have interfacing on it. And see, a new blade is a wonderful thing. All right. And now they tell you to never do this in quilting. I want to turn the whole thing over like that. And you just want to make sure that the edge you just cut is nice and even right here. You want the layers to still be together. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut these in 10-inch segments. So what I'll do to get me started, or actually let's just do the 9. I'm going to do 9. My bag is going to be slightly smaller than the one I made and sent out. And Joyce told me she got it. So yay, Joyce. I just wanted to do something special for Joyce. Mine's going to be smaller because I'm going to cut my squares to 9 inches square. And I'll show you how to get to the complete 9-inch square. And I'm going to use 1/2 inch seams on my next bag. So my bag will have sides that only measure 8 inches because you have a 1/2 inch seam on this side and a 1/2 inch seam on that side. And then you'll do it the same way. So the bag will be 8 inches square, which is right there. So my bag's going to only have sides this big. But for right now, let's cut it at 9 because we're including the seam allowance. All right. And you can see I cut right through my stitching, not worried about it. I'll pull this over, verify my edges are still even, line up the 9 inch again. And what I do is the 9 inches here, and to make sure it's square, I line the 11 inch line at the bottom. We're going to do more trimming in just a minute because we have to deal with this fold and this top part. I'll cut that. And then I'm just going to pull this away a little bit, make sure the edges stay even. And I'm just going to move this over, line up the 9 inch along the cut edge and the 11 inch along the fold. And then I'll just cut it. And see, I have this strip that I can play with for something else. So that'll get set aside. Now, I'm going to cut these one set at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. This is the fold I had. I'm making sure these two are still stacked right even on top of each other. And I'll go ahead and I'm going to line this up at like 9.5. So I know I'm right because from here to here is my 9 inch line. So the width is 9 inches. I'm going 9.5 to this fold because I don't want to include the fold in my cut because when the fold happens, sometimes it gets off and wonky in the fold. So I'm going to trim this side off. And that gives me 2 tiny little pieces. That one's not even attached. But you could save that for some slow stitching. And that has a little bit on it that could be interesting and a slow stitching opportunity. So now I'm going to take this whole thing and I'm going to gently turn it around. And I am not worrying about cutting through my stitches or anything because your sewing machine will take care of that. So now we're going to line up the 9 inch square. So 9 inches here, 9 inches here. And we should have a perfect square and we'll cut this fold away. So see, I've got that fold piece that's good for something else. And I have 2 of the sides I need for my bag. Okay. And if you're careful and you line these back up, you could put the rest of this heart right next to it and sew it in the seam. So it looks like it continues around, but I'll show you that in a minute. All right. So there's 2 squares. For the bag, you only need 5. So I'm going to have 1 extra 9 inch square, but I can use that for something else if I want to. Again, I'm going to verify I'm still stacked one on top of the other. Yeah, you need to. It'll make a world of difference for you, Kathy, to switch your blade out. And when you're having to cut that many times, that's when you have a chance of getting hurt. It should take 1 cut, just like that. Sometimes it hangs up in the creases of this old cutting mat. So see, 2 more pieces that I have that I can just play with. I can put those in my slow stitch basket. Gently turn it around. And again, If you go into quilting, you might want to invest in one of the Lazy Susan mats where you turn the whole mat. So let's see. I messed up on that. Oh, I messed up. I was supposed to cut that at 9.5. See, that's what happens. Well, let's see if we can cut it and the fold will just get cut away. You really need that extra because I'll show you. Look, you need to cut it bigger. See, I've got that little bit there that's going to be causing me problems and issues. Let's see here. Line this up so that I have something to cut against. And I'll just cut that away. There we go. All right, not the end of the world. Now see this one, if I use this one, I feel like that's not going to be much of a heart, so I might add another heart to this square. But we'll see. Because one's going to be on the bottom. All right, now Becky, remember, line this up at 9.5 so you're not cutting your fold away. Pick one of these straight lines. Line it up right on the line. And then trim away these. There's a little bit of interest there that we could use. Now we should do just perfect on this cut. Again, when you turn it, sometimes it'll shift. Verify everything's stacked up nice and even. Always verify, because once you cut, it's a done deal. And done deals in quilting can mean you might not be able to find fabric to finish it. Now see, I've cut through my hand stitching and everything, so I still got a little of my own stitching on there. There's some of this on there. Not worried about it. Okay, so now you've got your squares that you need of this here. All right, so there's a full heart here and a full heart here. So when you're making if you're going to do a rice bag with me, if you want to go and watch K3N Cloth Tales, she has full instructions on how to do all of this by hand if you want to. All right, I'm going to show you this with the fabric right side up, and then I'll flip everything so you can understand how things need to go. So let's say that's a side. So one goes up. This has to go this way. See how the heart shifted? Then this heart over here would need to go this way because this is the side of a bag. This is the side of the bag. All right. So those are like that. I'm going to use this one as the one that goes on the bottom, I think. So this will be the bottom of the bag. This will attach to one side there. This will attach to a side there. And then this one here. And then we need one block for this side. I think I like this one best. Okay. Yeah. But when you, if you think about this, you got it like this. When you go to sew it, right, things need to be together, right? So if you leave this one here, you could start here and just sew that one on. Then you open that one up and then you sew this one on and sew on around. But before you start sewing, I want you to mark on the back of all of your blocks your seam allowance, because you want to stop sewing before you end at the end of you don't sew from edge to edge. You're going to sew seam line to seam line because you want to keep the seam line for the side here free. So you don't want to sew all the way to the corner. You want to stop. and the reason I say to flip your blocks over and mark it is because that's what you're going to see when you're sewing, right? So let me show you what I mean about marking the fabric. I'm not going to mark all of mine with you. We're just going to pick a block and I'll mark it because we got handwork to do when we're done today. So again, if you take if you have one of these, a cutting mat, a rotary cutter, and a quilter's ruler will save you a ton of energy and worry and whatever. All right, so let me get a pencil. Ow. Sorry, I'm owing. The knee is causing me. Well, you know what? I think I'll just go ahead and use a Bic pen just to show you guys in black. And hopefully you'll see. Oh, sorry, Howard. So if you've got one of these rulers, if you want to mark these two sides, you're at 9 inches here, right? So say you want to add those two 1/2-inch seams. What's a 1/2 inch smaller than 9? 8.5. So then if you move your ruler diagonally so that it is on the 8.5-inch line here and here, then all you got to do is take your pen Is it writing on it or not? Don't tell me I got a dud pen. Hang on, let me see if I can get the ink flowing. There it goes. And then if you just want to shift over back to this edge, you can continue that line there. And if you just shift back up to where it's at 9 inches at the bottom, then you can make your little corner here. And right there, where those two lines meet, you have to stop sewing there. So now we got to mark the other two sides. So we're going to turn it and do the same thing. We're at 9, slide diagonally to 8.5, like so. And then mark your line. Then you can slide up, bring this back up to 9, and just finish that line to that edge. And you can do the same here. I think I need to replace my ruler. I'm seeing some nicks in it. But again, so now you've got all 4 sides are marked. So all the seam lines are marked. So you're going to stop sewing no matter which edge you're at. You'll have the bottom attached at 1. So the bottom would go down here because I can see this heart here. So I'm going to attach the bottom here. But I'm only going to sew from there to there. And then after you get these attached all at the bottom, then you'll have something that looks like a great big X. And then you're going to bring your sides together. And the reason you don't sew past where they connect here is so when you bring the two sides together, you're attached down here. You want this seam allowance to be totally free so that when you bring your two sides together, it'll be easy to sew from that point up to the top. The top edge eventually will sew down. Like, we'll press it down and we'll do some fancy stitch on the outside, but we're going to cross that bridge when we get it. So after you've marked all 5 of your blocks like this, you need to cut some batting, okay? We're going to cut cotton batting. If all you have is some like craft felt, you can use that. But I'm going to do cotton batting, and I want the batting to fit inside the lines. So this is an 8-inch square. So I need 8-inch squares of the batting. And we're going to put that on before we sew our bag together. And we'll baste it on with K3N's long basting stitches, where you leave on top of the fabric, you just put a tiny little stitch, and on the back you put a long stitch, because you're just basting it on. And those basting stitches will stay. And I can show you that real quick, but let me cut a square of batting, which I have right here. And I'm not sure what size this is, but we need an 8-inch square. So let's see what we've got. Need to trim just a little bit off, it looks like. So use what you have. I am going to slice this off here. And again, if your rotary cutter is not cutting in one whoop-de-doo, then you need a new blade. All right. So I'm not going to cut all of the squares. I'll cut some more in a minute. I just want to show you how to do this part. All right. So we're going to bring back the one we've marked. I want you to lay the batting on here so it fits inside the lines you just drew, and then pin it. All right. Oh, boy. And I just put some pins in. And I put one in the middle. And when I do the basting, I just do it kind of a little ways in on the edge. You're going to baste your batting on. Okay. And then you can do whatever more stitching you want. And the reason I held off on doing all of my stitching is because when you do the embroidery through the batting, it gives you another dimension. It gives you another texture to feel with your hands. You'll see what I mean when you start doing stitches. Now, the stitches that I was thinking of doing is maybe just some running stitches, or you could, any stitches you want to do. If you've just learned a new stitch and you love it, just put a little bit of it here and there, or all over the whole thing, whatever you want to do. I'm going to put like just fill this area in with some running stitches. Anywhere that I don't have something already, I'm going to put some more running stitches in. And I'm thinking I'm going to do all of these running stitches in just black, so that it stands out from the color I already have. But you could choose another color. Just pick maybe your favorite color or your least favorite color if you're trying to get more comfortable with it. You could do running stitches going horizontally and vertically, whichever you want to do. Do you want me to show you how to do that basting stitch real quick? I can do that. And really, when you do the basting stitch, you want to try to match your background, because you really want this to kind of disappear. So I've got this spool of dual duty Coats and Clark. I would tell you what color. It's color 8010. And I'm just going to take some of it. You're not going to be able to see it, but I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. I need a needle. And if you guys don't mind, I'm going to draw you closer to me. And I'm going to sit down because my knee is really doing something weird. I might end up at the new doctor's office, because I did get a doctor's appointment, but it's not until the end of the month. We'll see how this knee does. It's actually with another nurse practitioner. Getting into a regular doctor is nigh on impossible anymore. And I don't mind the nurse practitioners. I'm getting used to dealing with them. So I'm getting a needle out. Hopefully I'll be able to thread it okay. I'm going to have to bring you guys closer to me. So hi Mary, hi Leah, hi Kathy, hi Dar, Nettie, Joyce, Marguerite. Actually, ice does, and this is my icy water, and I've been sticking it on my knee periodically. I wanted to get all of my circles stitched today. More than anything, putting it up in the recliner helps. Oh, Heather had to run. Okay. Let's see. Did I miss anybody out? Hi, Pixie. Hope the baby's still asleep for you. Hi, Dusty Unicorn. Hello. I'm scrolling back up real quick. I don't want you guys to feel like I'm just talking to myself. And I want to make sure I haven't missed anything. Are you getting what I'm doing so far? I hope so. So I'll put the ice on for a minute and then I can work a little bit longer. And I've been taking Tylenol. And I probably cut too long of a strand, but I'd rather cut a nice long piece. And again, when you go to do this, you're going to do a long stitch at the back and a little stitch at the front. And this stays in and you won't even notice it because it's the same color as the fabric or close to it. And there's so much going on this fabric, it's not going to matter. So come over here so I can show you more better. All right, I'm going to bring my knot up from the back here. So I'm going to go anywhere along here. Whoops. Let's see, where do I need to go? This way. I'm going to go up from the back, and then on the front, I'm going to take a small little stitch. I don't know if you can see where my needle is, that little tiny. And then I'm going to go to the back and draw it up. And then I'll come over maybe about the width of my thumb. And I'm going to go to the front. Ow! Stab myself in the thumb. No. And go to the front, take another tiny little stitch, and go to the back. And I'm just going to do that all the way around. And I got a loop. Come on, loop. Quit twisting on yourself. Behave. There we go. Go, let's see that. Go up here, and we'll do another little one like so. I needed to wax this thread. It's not wanting to behave itself. All right. So see, the stitches on the front are much shorter than the ones on the back. That's my dishwasher telling me I'm done. Thank you. Mary's got to go somewhere. She said, be right back. All right. So do a longer stitch. So about the width of your thumbnail or index finger. And then on the front, do like a 1/4 inch or less. And then draw up. If you pull it too tight and it does a gathery thing, you can smooth it back out as long as you haven't tied a knot in it anywhere. So I'm going to make a longer stitch. And then a tiny one at the front. That felt like I missed the fabric entirely. You just want to make sure you're going through the fabric. And see, now that I've done that corner, I can lose this pin and get it out of my way. And come over, do a smaller stitch at the front. I'm going to pull out my grandmother's beeswax for the next piece of thread because this is tangling too much. You see, that's how much thread's going to show. You see the needle right there? Long stitches at the back, short ones on the front. So let me show you the front now. You can see there's just little teeny stitches there that you can hardly see. trying to show them to you, but it's just reflecting. And that's all you want. You just want this to be held into place. Once you get a basting stitch all the way around the outer edge, a quarter to a half inch from your seam line, you'll be fine. It won't move once it's basted in place. The rule with quilting is when you're basting, your basting stitches should be the width of your hand away. But on something like this, you can go just around the outer edge, long stitch it back, short stitch it front. And then once you get all your basting done, then you get to play. You know where your seams are going to be because they won't have batting on them. Okay, but something you do need to keep in mind is one side of your presser foot will be on top of the batting. So you don't want to put your buttons that close to the seam. So leave a half an inch from this line this way and a half an inch from that way. That way you can put your buttons that we still have to add anywhere inside here about an inch away from the edge of your block and you'll be fine. Like we could put buttons in the middle of some of our stitch circles, maybe inside of that. Whatever you want to do. Hi, Elise. Haven't seen you in a while. Welcome. So this is going to take you some time. I don't know if you guys want me to maybe do Fridays are pretty full of people already doing lives, but I could come on maybe, well, I don't know. I think I'm going to need longer than that. So next Wednesday, let's do next Wednesday. We'll meet back up with your stitched pieces. So yes, you're going to add more stitching and stuff because you got to put your buttons. If you want to add beads, you can. Just to make sure you stay away from that 1 inch from the edge because that takes care of the seam allowance plus where your presser foot needs to go. You don't want to block your presser foot on your sewing machine. And you know, if you want to do some spiral embroidery, that could be cool inside of some of your circles. Like I said, you could pick a color or use a neutral like black. I think I'm going to do black because I've got the black dots. And I'm just going to do some random stitches in black. All right, you can see this is all sewn down now, see? It doesn't lift anymore. And it's really not a huge stitch that you're taking. I'm going to go ahead and take that pin out so my thread doesn't get stuck on there. And this will give you guys enough time to decorate everything. Oh, another thing you'll need to do is check your stash for just some kind of fabric that kind of goes with your own handmade painted stuff. Because we're going to do the same thing as far as blocks. So you'll need 5 more blocks, whatever size you decide to do, cut for your lining. And that we're not going to put any this stuff, batting. You're not going to put any batting on your lining fabric unless you want to. Now, I might add some interfacing just to give it a little bit more stability, but that's all up to you. You can, I didn't on the last one I made and sent to Joyce. I did not line or put batting or interfacing or anything on the lining fabrics. They're just on their own, sewn together and put in. But you'll also need some scraps, but I have another whole square I could play with, or I might pick a fabric that kind of goes with the lining that kind of matches the outside. So like if we wanted to put an aquamarine lining on mine because I've got these. I could find some kind of aqua fabric and then maybe make my tabs out of a floral yellow or some kind of red would be pretty with the teal lining. All of that is up to you. I know that the little squares we need to make the little tabs for the rope to run through, I believe they're 3 inches long, and then you fold them in half and then put them in on the edges, and we'll do that in the next video. So find some fabrics that kind of go together that you have enough that you can make 5 of whatever size blocks that you have for your lining. And that was probably clear as mud, but I hope you understood me. Bring more fabric. I'm getting my stitches a little big on the front side, but by the time I'm done, I'm not going to see them anyway. Of course, Tippy's going to want out. So I know Mary has a link to Just Stitches that if you want to learn some new stitches and add them to the outside of your bag. I don't have that link handy, but I can put it in the description box. Okay, I'm running out of thread, so I'm just going to catch it under my last stitch and then run my needle backwards through here because I let it get a kind of short. And I'll get some more thread because I have to get around this other edge. I don't feel like digging out Grandma's wax yet. But there are plenty of learning stitches. I know K3N is teaching stitches, and there's a bunch of other slow stitching channels doing stitch journals and such. I'll leave that up to you. If you want to use some of the methods that K3N, let's see, she's done fabric weaving, and she's with running stitch, and she's done like a yin and yang, light and dark, balance, find balance. If you want to do all of those on your 4 sides or 5 sides, you can even put it on the bottom. I added stitching to the bottom to the first rice bag I made. Again, that's all up to you. All right, I'm going to start this knot on the back. And just take a little stitch, come back to the back here. I'm stitching from the back because that's where I need my longer stitches. I'm just trying to make sure I'm leaving, I'm feeling with my fingers the little stitch on the outside. I really have these way too close together. I want to take that pin out now because we're not going to need it anymore. So I'll probably stitch on this tomorrow and over the weekend to do a little bit. And I do a little bit on each side. And then next Wednesday, we'll get together and I'll have it set up. I'm going to figure out a way to set you guys up over by my sewing machine. I might have to break down my serger or move it. I could move it over onto this table. And then we could sew these together. Now I know Catherine at K3N Cloth Tales, she longer stitch, Becky. She did hers all by hand. She sewed them together by hand, everything. But I have a sewing machine, so I'm going to cheat with the construction of it. Since I'm doing all this hand stitching on the outside, I think that's allowed. No, doing it backwards again. Long stitch on the back. and a short stitch on the front. Basically, you just need to hold the batting in place. Now you can put your stitches, thank you, Mary. Mary put the link in for Pentangle. So if you want to learn some new stitches to add to your bag, you can. I'm probably just going to do running stitch, but I had thought about pulling out my letter stencils that I have and maybe put project bag on the side, put it on with pencil and then stitch over it so it is stitched in. So stitch words onto your bag. That's another thing you can do. By doing all this kind of personalization work, you're really making the project your very own. All right, we don't need this one in the middle anymore. It's not going to move. It's not going anywhere now. And see, this one's now ready for me to add my buttons, which I know I have to add buttons. I might add some beadwork. Never know. You'll have to turn up next Wednesday to see what all I've added. But please feel free to go out there, watch some other YouTubers. Maybe you'll find an idea that you want to add to your bag. The reason I'm not sharing a lot about what I'm doing with the stitches is because I find that that part needs to come from you. That part, you need to decide what you add to your bag. I've got a little ways to go, and see, I still have 4 more of these blocks to do this to. So I will probably sit here for the rest of today. Or I might take a break because I have been stitching a while and I have to take care of my neck where I have that pinched nerve in my neck. And my neck is starting to have some issues with me. So I might listen to the body and say, okay, you're going to do something else besides look down and stitch. And again, I've probably taken too long of a stitch. All right, I'm back to the beginning. And again, I'm going to slide my thread under my last stitch, or my needle rather. Find the end of the thread, and then just wrap it around the needle 2 or 3 times. And draw that all down to meet where you are at the base of your fabric, and then push your needle, pull it up, and you have a knot. And this is just basting, but I'm going to hide the tail in the batting. And voila, it's basted on. So this will be one of my sides, and you can kind of see that this is where the block ends and where the seams will be stitched. Like part of that heart's going to get caught in the seam, and I'm okay with that. But that gives me from basically here to here to decorate some more. So, and stitching can go all the way over. It's just gonna, if you put it all the way over into the seam, you're just wasting your stitches and time because that's all going to get caught in the seam allowance. Okay. So this is pretty close to my edge, but I could still add a little something over here on the edge of this red lace if I wanted. Maybe, in fact, some of the stuff, if it's real close to the edge, if you want to, like add a yo-yo or something, you could do that after you get the outside of the bag sewn together. That way you don't have to worry about it. And you can still get to the inside of the bag is what I'm saying. Because if you do it before we make the lining, you can still add stuff on the side. All right. I hope I've not been too off the chain. Yes, Marion's World is another hand stitcher. And Susan Taylor Brown, she comes on at 3 o'clock today, the same time that Art Junkie does, and she does slow stitching on there. I know a lot of hers, though, is on her Patreon, but if you just sit and chat with her one day and watch her work, she has multiple candles. Cameras set up. And she shows her hands working, and she talks while in one of the frames where she's talking. All right. Again, I have finally created a playlist for this project at basically Janet Baum's request. She likes me to have the playlist so she can find them quickly. So I did create a playlist. So if you want to go back, make your painted fabric with me from a couple weeks ago. There's a short in there, maybe 2 shorts, and the part where we came and we did something. We added the fabric and the lace and stuff. I did a stitch video. And see, I've cut through some of my blanket stitch on some of the hearts, but I'm not worried about it because all of that will be caught up in other stitching. This will actually, this is the top edge. This is going to get folded over because Catherine, K3N Cloth Tails, she folds the tops over, and see, only that much of that heart's going to show. So even if the stitches start coming out back here, they're going to be caught inside between the layers of the bag. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about cutting through your stitching. It'll be fine. All right, guys. So I'm going to let you go. It's almost 2 o'clock. I'm trying to keep my lives to a shorter amount of time for health reasons. So I will talk to you guys next Wednesday, if not before. I don't think Scott and I are going to go thrifting this week, so I don't know if we will. Thank you, Mary. We'll do a chat with y'all on Saturday or not. It depends. Scott's getting pretty tired, but he's back teaching. So you're so welcome, Joyce. Much love, dear. And I will talk to you guys next Wednesday, if not sooner. Bye.